Now, I have recently come into possession of these. They are the packaging from Crash Bandicoot blind box figures. These little guys, to be precise, they are just vinyl collectible figures in different poses that you can pick up. I mean, apparently anyway, as I only ever seem to get this one thumbs up Crash. This one's a different color, I suppose that's some variety. But anyway, not to worry, I'm more interested in the packaging. Now these boxes that they come in, I bet are probably headed to landfill half the bloody time. I mean, maybe some kids are playing with them, but we're not going to contribute to that. And as lovers of Crash Bandicoot and video game props, I think we can do much better. They didn't start off as white, I will say. I've already primed these. They were just this shiny brown, detailless plastic, which is not very accurate to the game. So with a bit of a repaint, I think we can make these a fine addition to my collection. First things first then, we need some base colours. I used regular old craft paint for this. Since I have 3 crates, it only stands to reason that we should go for 1 brown crate. I chose the question mark one since it's everywhere in the games, even in the HUD to show how many you've collected. And also because I'd rather admit to my own mother that I didn't take the chicken out the freezer than to try and paint an accurate Aku Aku face on an uneven surface. For our second crate, of course, it had to be the iconic red TNT that we all know and love. Then, last but certainly not least, the green glow that sent shivers down the spines of any adolescent from 1997 onwards, the Nitro crate. You know, one thing I'll say about these things, and look, it's not a complaint that probably many people care about, and the companies who make these things certainly don't care about, but they never really try for even a modicum of accuracy, do they? I mean, with these crates, in the games, all of the games that I know of anyway, there's an X on every side. What's this? What's this flat shite? Come on now. Where's the X? I did a couple coats of the base colours and darkened them up a little since I knew I was going to add a few layers of lighter dry brushing later. There are, of course, lots of iterations of the crate designs, from the OG 90s versions through to the more recent remakes and spin-off games. What one you go for is really up to your heart's desire. For me, I chose to go for the more modern versions because there's a little bit more detail there, it's easier for me to get this footage you're watching now, and for another reason we'll get to shortly. So this is a slightly different format of video for me. I usually spend a bit more time producing my videos, doing bigger dioramas, thinking about what I'm going to say a little bit before I turn the camera on, which you can probably tell this time I'm just sprouting garbage at you with no wherewithal beforehand. But I thought since those videos take so much time to put out, maybe just to break up things between those releases, maybe I could try and do something a little bit more casual instead, and maybe do some small sort of 1 or 2 day projects like this. I mean, everybody's vlogging at the moment, and Trent has peer pressured all of us into giving this a go, so we'll see what happens. Let me know in the comments if you like the more casual style of videos, or maybe I should just put all my effort into the big ones. I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. Once the base coats were fully dry, I set upon them with what you could call a very heavy dry brush, or maybe a slightly dry normal coat of lighter coloured paint. Basically, you just want to make sure a good amount of paint is transferring onto your model, but not covering the base coat completely. Since this is wood we're painting and there's virtually no texture on the plastic itself, we can also take this time to make some texture. By painting in the direction of the individual boards and making sure to swipe pretty hard with my brush, I can build up some wood grain fairly easily. For this technique, it really helps to use a stiff brush, the kind that's still suffering from PTSD from the last time you used it, to apply glues, pastes, uranium groundwater from your local nuclear waste facility. You know, the normal stuff. Then all you need to do is build up layers, getting lighter in colour and lighter in volume of paint on the brush, which picks up the texture from the previous layers as you go. And as your brush gets drier, don't be afraid to really get in there, like you're trying to detangle a rabid honey badger with a toothbrush. For legal purposes, I don't suggest you do that, and take no legal responsibility. These are looking pretty good so far, so it's now time to paint the details and on to the second reason why I wanted to do the more modern iteration of the crates. They will be much easier to paint. You might be seeing a pattern here in my choices for these things, but the messier style of writing will help old shaky hands here tremendously. But first we need the stripes. I used what can only be described as the world's shitest masking tape. It had basically no stick whatsoever, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is usually in the job description of tape, but who am I to assume? With help from some real masking tape, I did get it to hold eventually. Though that being said, it was more akin to how you hold a teddy bear handed to you by a snotty toddler while trying to appear polite to the parents who are talking at you while your brain is consumed only by the thought of yeeting that germy little prick out the window. The bear, not the child. Promise. Since this was just a guide and I didn't want to risk losing paint to stickier tape, I just dealt with it. I'm painting these because I had them, but if you wanted to make something similar, you definitely don't need to buy a cube that a toy comes in. You could so easily make something just as good and honestly probably more accurate if we're thinking about the big X problem we mentioned before, with just some coffee stirring sticks and ice lolly sticks or tongue depressors, whatever you want to call them. It would be super easy and probably come out better, and it would take absolutely no time at all. I probably should have done that, but here we are. Obviously I'm doing crash crates here, but these same rules apply to any type of collectible or toy you want to level up a little bit. With just a bit of effort, you can make a real difference and make something that is much more at home in, say, the background of your YouTube videos whilst you live in a temporary house that only has boring white walls behind you, just as an example. I used the thinner, actually sticky tape to get a consistent line weight for the stripes, so once everything was taped up, I could remove that one and get painting. I've just realised I sat there and masked this whole thing when the brown one doesn't have the yellow stripes, so I knew that. Why did I? Don't take any of my advice, that's the takeaway here. For the stripes on the crates that do actually have stripes on them, I used some yellow model paints. If you're painting on top of other colours with yellow, I would usually suggest using white underneath if you want them opaque, which you'll see me doing in a minute. But for these, I thought it would look nice if there were some more transparent spots so that it looked a little bit more realistically haphazard. I imagine Dr. N. Cortex with his buddies Engine, Entropy, and Embryo. That last one I only understood the meaning of somewhere in my 20s, by the way. All chipped in together to build a factory somewhere to produce these things. And some poor twat called Troll of Substances Hazardous to Health Regulation 2002 is having to paint them up and ship out all of these very volatile boxes. You wouldn't take the most time to make sure your lines were perfect if this was about to be the 5th time you'd been blown up this week. Now that's a risk assessment form I'd like to see. You can see with the white base, the yellow is much brighter on a first coat. I used the same model paints for all of these parts, since they are just way better for colour payoff than regular craft paint. An actually opaque yellow craft paint is probably what's inside Pandora's bloody box. The question mark gave me some issues trying to match it to the one in the game, but in the end I think it looks vaguely like a piece of potential punctuation, and that's a win for me. To outline everything, I mixed up pretty dark versions of each crate colour. I very briefly considered using a black Posca pen, which would have been much easier, but alas, the want for accuracy and colour won the debate. In contrast to that, I made the outlines a little bit scribblier than they are in the game, since that's a bit more my style, but I don't think I went too far. And after that, all we had left to do was shine up the nails with a little bit of gunmetal paint as a final detail. And it's as simple as bloody well that. I'm really happy with how these came out. They are looking really cool. They were very simple to make. I mean, I don't even think I technically made anything, I suppose. But I guess I'm just here to say that with a little bit of effort, you can make something really cool out of the pieces of plastic crap we all have sitting around in our houses. But thank you so much for watching. I will be back very, very soon with the next video. I'm making a big effort to get things out much sooner, so subscribe and like and comment and all that jazz, and I'll catch you after.